Good evening, everyone. Hi, India and the world. My name is Dr. Saurav. I work in Neurogen Hospital, Neurogen Brain and Spine Institute, Navi Mumbai. I'm an occupational therapist. So, my topic today for the webinar is on hand and elbow exercises for MND, that is motor neuron diseases, or particular motor neuron disease which I'll describe today is anterior horns amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, that is called ALS. So, uh, so basically, I'll start with the what is ALS, a type of motor neuron disease, which is a rapidly progressive neurodegenerative disease. It is called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis because because due to degeneration of the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord, and which is replaced by hardening of the anterior and the lateral corticospinal tracts of the spinal cord, resulting in gliosis of the neurons, motor neurons. So basically, it starts from distal to proximal, from hands to elbow to shoulder. So the age of onset, of average age of onset is 58 years, and but it can start early from the adolescent age. So early detection as well as early diagnosis of these types of cases of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is most important, because if we don't diagnose or we don't detect early, then we will have the early progression of the disease, which may cause bedridden of the patient, and ultimately the patient can die within a period of 2 to 5 years. So early detection is very, very important, and for early detection, the person should be aware of the fact that any types of diseases, basically it starts from weakness, generalized weakness of the whole body, and weakness of the muscles from distal to proximal end. Basically starts from upper limb, then lower limb. So in upper limb, the first symptom would be difficulty in writing, difficulty in buttoning, fine motor activities, and also difficulty in dressing in areas like dressing, buttoning, zipping, tying shoelaces. So these types of symptoms will be seen. Then it may be bulbar onset also. So in bulbar onset, we have the person will be having difficulty in speaking. The speech will be harsh, low pitched, and also the swallowing. The person will be having swallowing difficulty. So the gag reflex, which is also known as the the reflex which helps us in swallowing the food by blocking the airway. So this gag reflex gets overactivated. So this causes difficulty in having the person to swallow. So and also we have to go to the doctor, as well as we have weakness and all that. So for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, we don't have any diagnostic tests, laboratory tests as such. So we generally need a clinical evaluation. A thorough clinical evaluation should be done for these types of cases, as well as we can do a EMG, which can confirm with the clinical diagnosis that the person is having a disease of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So the amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is a mixture of upper motor neural lesion as well as lower motor neural lesions, signs. Sorry. So in upper motor neural signs, we have spasticity, we have hyperreflexia, we have weakness, generalized weakness of the body, we have loss of dexterity of hands, and lower motor neuron signs are absent reflexes, we have lower motor tone, we have muscle atrophy, we have fasciculations over the skin of face or over the body, trunk or hands and feet. So these are so ALS is a type, having a clinical features of mixture of both upper motor neuron signs as well as lower motor neuron signs. So how it is detected? So we can confirm the diagnosis by dividing the differential diagnosis into 4 parts. So a case which comes to you, if by doing clinical evaluation, if we find that a person is having upper motor neuron signs plus lower motor neuron signs in at least 3 regions of the body, so we can confirm that he is a case of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. But we can also we can do a probable diagnosis of ALS, like if a person is having upper motor neuron signs as well as lower motor neuron sign at least one region of the body, and upper motor neuron signs or lower motor neuron signs are more than the lower motor neuron signs in other 2 regions. We can also clinically diagnose probable diagnose case of ALS, like upper motor neuron sign and a lower motor neuron sign in at least one region, as well as we can support the diagnosis with EMG in at least 2 regions. So we have to do EMG for at least 2 muscles which is weaker. So if the EMG score, if the EMG shows that there is a low electric nerve conduction in the muscle, so then we can find that it is a probable diagnosis of ALS. If a person comes where his upper motor signs are more than the lower motor signs, or lower motor signs are more than the upper motor signs, or only upper motor signs are present or only lower motor signs are present, then we can't confirm that he is a case of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So I think that I've covered up the general history and the diagnosis and the differential diagnosis part of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis for who are attending the webinar, both for therapists as well as for the patients. So I'll now go for the exercises for elbow and hand exercises for motor neuron disease, specifically amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So I'm starting with the elbow exercises. So first of all, for the elbow exercises, I'll demonstrate the elbow flexion and extension for the muscle biceps. So a person will be lying down on, if he is lying down on his left side, right side, and if I want his left side arm for elbow flexion and extension, I'll take a overhead arm sling and I'll put the arm over the sling over the forearm and ask the person to flex and extend the elbow. So a person having a muscle strength less than 3, so we'll give the person a overhead sling exercise for elbow flexion and extension. So the person with the palm above the towards the side of his face will be doing the exercise for the biceps. If I put the palm downwards towards the legs, he will be doing exercises for brachioradialis. And if I put the arm in mid-prone position, facing the thumb towards his face, then I will be doing exercises for the muscle called brachialis. So there are 3 muscles which flexes the elbow: biceps, brachialis and brachioradialis. So a person having less than 3 muscle strain in 3 of the muscles will give these types of exercises in overhead sling. If the person is having muscle strain more than 3, then we'll use anti-gravity as well as we can put weights over the one exercises, like I put pronation and pronation and the hand muscles train. So this is called a rollator or supination pronation device, which is custom made and makes sure that the elbow is flexed to 90 degree, and will ask the person to supinate and pronate the forearm to strengthen the muscles supinator and pronators like pronator teres and pronator quadratus. So this is called pronation and this is called supination. So these exercises is important because for in our daily life we always use these movements like while putting upside down the glasses or something like these activities. Now coming to thumb. So for thumb activities, if there is a most often if a person comes late or have a late diagnosis, there will be wasting of the intrinsic muscles. So the intrinsic muscles are the muscles which arises in the hand and takes is inserted in the hand only. So there are small muscles in the hand. So for thumb, there is all the muscles in the hand for thumb, like the thenar eminence, like the hypothenar eminences, like the intrinsics called dorsa introsi and the palmar introsi, and the lumbricals as well as the adductor pollicis. There is a chance of wasting. So for thumb, if there is a late detection, there will be a hollow in the thumb first dorsal introsi, as well as there will be atrophy for the adductor pollicis. So if a person have atrophy of the first dorsal introsi as well as for adductor pollicis muscle, then we can use a thumb strap to hold the thumb in opposition position so that he can hold any object and release the object. So for thumb IP flexion and extension, we can give activities like coin tossing. He can use the thumb IP for coin tossing activity. Now coming to the wrist. So if the person is having difficulty in wrist extension in gravity, against gravity, then we can use the same wrist roll as a wrist rollator. He can use wrist to lift it up, as well as in supination position to do wrist flexion. Also we need radial deviation and ulnar deviation of the hand. This is radial deviation of wrist, this is ulnar deviation of wrist. So for this also we can use this, and we have to put the arm in midprone position and he can radially deviate against gravity and ulnarly deviate. We can also use in this position also for deviation towards radius and ulnar. Now coming to the fingers. So if the lumbricals as well as dorsal introsi and palmar introsi are wasting, there is a lot of wasting or there is weakness, we can use a pancake spin or a knuckle bender spin just to support the fingers, and alternately we can do exercises Lumbricals as well as palmar and dorsal introsi to strengthen them. If the muscle is too weak or there is atrophy, we have to make them do passively or active assistively. Or the person can stand up and put his hand over a table or a bed, and he can do this exercise. This is also for intrinsics, lumbricals and palmar and dorsal introsi. For strengthening of the fingers, composite flexion, for MCP IPs, we can give hand grippers to strengthen them. Or we can also use a smiley ball or therapeutic. We can strengthen the pin strength with finger spring. For all the fingers, we can use finger spring for strengthening the pin strength. Okay. We can also use this finger spring for lateral pinch. This pinch is needed for using the keys. We can also use activities like putting staples over the paper. We can also use activities with clothespin to improve the pin strength. If a person has a weak grasp due to atrophy of the extrinsic muscles as well as intrinsic muscles, then we'll have to use strengthening of grasp. We can use a larger ball and gradually decrease the size of the ball. And after that, we can also use for radials if he needs enlarged handles of the daily kneading activities like spoon, he can use that. So a weak grasp, for a weak grasp we can use enlarged handle spoon. We can also use a enlarged handle knife to cut vegetables. We can also use enlarged handle fork. If a person is having difficulty or a decreased range of motion or spasticity around the elbow muscles, we can also support him with active assistive devices, exercises with this type of spoon, angulated spoon, so that it will reach towards his mouth easily with less range of motion in elbow. So these are manipulative activities like simple and complex rotation. So for rotation of the fingers, we can give him such screwing and unscrewing activities. If a person is having called a flail hand with no muscles left for activities of daily living, we can use a an assistive device called universal cuff. So this is a universal cuff. So there is pockets in the universal cuff. So in the pockets we can put spoon, we can also put a comb for combing, you can also put a brush for brushing. So if a person is having flail hand but his proximal muscles like elbow is having 3 plus muscle strain as well as shoulder, then he can comb his hair. Same for with the spoon and the brush. So this simple universal cuff is a good assistive device for a flail hand to continue his ADLs. So if the muscles of the hand are so weak and also due to long term non-use of hand there is tightness, so for long term cases we can use a functional cock-up splint so that the muscles of the arms and the hands are being rested in such a position that there is no more tightness in the wrist and the fingers and the thumb, and this maintains the functional position of the hand, which is needed for at least for using the universal cuff if he is not having any muscles spared for using the hand. I have to show another exercise for supination and pronation. So this is pronation activity. So this is supination activities. If a person is having good finger extensors, you can also strengthen them by putting any weights over it. Like I am putting a minimum weight like this. For finger extensor strengthening. So for finger flexors also, for MCP, so we can also strengthen finger flexors at MCP like lumbricals and as well as dorsal and palmar introsi by putting weight over the fingers. And be sure that all the fingers are extended in the IP joints, only the MCP joints flexes. You can strengthen the palmar and dorsal introsi. Like the person has to pull in between the fingers the paper and I have to pull the paper out. So the person is trying to keep the paper in between the fingers. So there are 4 pages, so we can grade it accordingly. We can also use for thumb, CMC and IP joint adduction like this. So these are all the exercises and activities for elbow, wrist, fingers and thumb. So a person with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis should be doing these types of exercises after early detection and early diagnosis of ALS. So so that there is less muscle atrophy, we can prevent muscle atrophy, we can prevent spasticity, we can also prevent or help the person to continue his job and also continue his activities of daily living. So thank you. This is all my today's topic. So I want to thank you, Dr. Hemangi ma'am, for giving me such a good opportunity to tell or present a case of MND or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis in front of everyone. And I also thank Asha Hope Foundation, and also I want to thank Neurogen Brain and Spine Institute to giving me this opportunity. So anybody is having any questions can please type over the Facebook or can ask. Thank you. So there is a question asked by someone. The question is how to teach release techniques. So is it release techniques for hand, grasp release? So I'll teach that. So if a person is having weak release, so in cases of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, generally both the flexor muscles as well as extensor muscles become weak and gets atrophied. So in a flail arm, neither flexion or extension of fingers is possible. But if a person is having flexion, generally in ALS, a person is having difficulty in grasping an object due to weakness of the intrinsic muscles of the finger flexors. So we can give the person anything to grasp. So anything to grasp, the person may not have that much strength to grasp it, so his hand will be like this. He is not able to grasp. Okay. But for release, generally grasping and releasing occurs simultaneously. So we can put, if there is a tightness of the finger flexors, we have to put the hand in a functional cock-up splint so that there is the function of the hand is preserved, and as well as we can also put the fingers in a pancake splint to give stretch to the finger flexors. So basically, if a person is having difficulty in releasing the object, that means the person is having tightness in the long finger flexors. So for that we can use pancake splint. Either this is a pancake splint for stretching, or we can use a functional cock-up splint to maintain the function of the hand. So we can use this at the daytime. We have to wear this for 1 hour, and we can remove it for 1 hour and do exercises both for grasping and releasing. So if we don't prevent tightness of the finger flexors, we can't achieve extension of the fingers, that is release. So hope I have answered your question. There is a question from Miss Jasmine Sheikh. She is asking about how to teach finger extension in spastic patients. Okay. So basically, spasticity occurs in finger flexors, wrist flexors, the flexor group of muscles, not in the extensors. So for in the finger flexors, when it is there is spasticity, so we have to release the spasticity so that we can use the extensors, weak muscles like extensors, to use for releasing of object. So first we have to give manual stretching. We can use manual stretching for finger flexors like this. We can also do weight bearing. We can also use weight bearing to stretch the finger flexors. Be sure that the fingers are not flexed from the eyepiece like this. All the fingers should be straight. And we can also use a pancake splint to stretch the finger flexors, or we can use a pancake with finger spreader. So this is a finger spreader pancake splint. So we can stretch the intrinsic as well as extrinsic muscles of fingers. So if the tightness is, the spasticity is more, we have to increase the splint time, and if the spasticity is getting reduced day by day, we have to reduce the splint time from, we can at the starting we can use for 2 hours wearing and 2 hours without the splint, and within that we have to use the we can do the activities. So gradually, when the spasticity reduces to spasticity, there is a grading for spasticity. So if the spasticity comes to near normal or to 1, then only we can go for strengthening to the extensors of the fingers. Hope I have answered your question. There is a question from Mr. Shah. Should I improve my grip? Yes, because grip strength is very much important. If a person of ALS or MND is having for strengthening of grip strength, you can use gripper, hand gripper. You can also grade them. If a person can't do with 5 springs, you can take out. We can also use Miley balls to squeeze them. We can also use Theraputti. There are lots of Theraputti or clay available with different resistance in the market. So according to the strength of the hand, we can use that to improve the strength of the hand, of fingers as well as thumb. We can also use Play-Doh. So these are various types of exercises for strengthening the hand and grasp. So have I answered your question, Mr. Shah? There is a question can I improve strength in my hands? Okay. So as I have told that early detection is very important. If the muscles of hands for intrinsics as well as extrinsics for flexor and extensor groups of muscles gets atrophied, is very difficult to strengthen. So basically the muscle strength has gone to 1 or grade 1 or grade 0. So there is minimal contraction. So that's why early detection is very important. So if a person is having a weak grasp but his strength of the muscles of hand are 3 or more than 3, we can strengthen them, or at least 2, the muscle strength should be true. If it is less than 2, it is very difficult to strengthen them. The goal in that case would be to just to prevent tightness, and we can also use like universal cuff for ideals as I have shown you, or we can use enlarged handle so that he can use these types of devices for ideals and he is independent in that. So for strengthening, generally we need a strength of grade 2 and more than 2, so that there will be more strengthening we can do. So there's a question from Ms. Jasmine saying that when patient tries to flex elbow, it goes into internal rotation and pronation with wrist flexion. So how to tackle this problem? So it's basically a trick movements or compensatory movement. So when the person is having weak biceps and triceps or brachialis, so he can't able to flex the elbow in gravity elemental plane also, as I have shown in the sling exercises. So if a person is having muscle strength less than 2, then we'll have to block the elbow, hold the humerus. So if I am using elbow flexion against gravity, the person may do this. So it is called internal rotation and external rotation of shoulder, as per your question. So to block this movement, we have to just grasp the arm towards his body so that there is no abduction or adduction of shoulder, and also teach them linear movement of elbow flexion and extension. So you have to block internal rotation, external rotation of shoulder. You have to hold the humerus, and also the person sometimes can do abduction and adduction of shoulder. To reduce these compensatory movements, we have to hold the humerus. Thank you. So if you have any more questions, you can just type it over there and you can ask me, or you can just email to Asha Hope. Then I will get back to you. Thank you.